A lone rancher repays a lifelong debt to an Apache chief, expecting only gratitude but finds trust, loyalty, and unexpected love. Two brave women, 29, join the journey, learning survival and courage. Watch as bonds of honor and affection form in the Wild West. Like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Let's get started. The night stretched across the dry plains like a velvet blanket, stars glittering faintly above the rugged horizon. The rancher guided his weary horse along a narrow trail, its hooves kicking up small clouds of dust. The wind whispered through the sagebrush, carrying scents of smoke, earth, and distant wildfires. He approached the Apache camp cautiously, aware of the tribe's reputation and the thin line between hospitality and hostility. His satchel contained only food, water, and simple tools, but he carried them with determination, a promise of goodwill stronger than any gold coin he lacked. The chief, tall and imposing, stood near the fire, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames. He studied the rancher silently, measuring every movement, every subtle gesture, searching for truth beneath humble demeanor. "Why come here?" the chief demanded, voice deep and deliberate, carrying authority and wariness. The rancher bowed his head, careful to show respect without weakness. "I owe a debt I cannot repay in gold, only in loyalty and service," he said, his voice low but steady. Every word carried sincerity, every gesture reflected honesty earned from years of hardship and survival. The chief motioned for him to sit, still wary yet intrigued. Around the fire, warriors exchanged quiet glances, whispers carried on the night wind. Some questioned his presence, others observed the calm steadiness in his eyes. The camp, usually alive with movement and laughter, seemed to hold its breath. As he settled near the fire, he offered the food and water he carried, placing it respectfully before the chief and the nearest warriors. There was no fanfare, no speech, only a simple act of giving. The gesture was small, yet in the eyes of the tribe, it held meaning beyond wealth. Night deepened, and the desert seemed to close around them. Crickets chirped in rhythm, coyotes howled far off in the distance, and the fire cast long shadows on the faces gathered. The rancher remained patient, silent, letting his actions speak where words might fail. The chief studied him in silence, then nodded once. "You walk a dangerous path," he said, his tone neither warm nor cold. "But courage is seen, not declared. Why do you offer this help?" The rancher met his gaze without faltering, recognizing the weight of honesty in that moment. "I owe a debt of conscience," the rancher replied. "In the past, your people showed kindness to strangers I could not repay. I have only food, water, and labor, but I wish to honor what I owe." The sincerity in his words carried weight, measured and unwavering. The warriors murmured quietly among themselves. Some shook their heads in disbelief, while others whispered approval. It was rare for outsiders to approach unarmed, carrying nothing of material value, seeking only to repay intangible debts. The night stretched, the fire crackling as if approving the silent ceremony unfolding. Slowly, the chief's expression softened, his posture relaxing just enough to signal acceptance. "Then you shall stay," he said, voice low but commanding. "Observe, learn, and serve. Actions, not words, will show the truth of your loyalty. The night is long, and tomorrow will test all who claim honor here." The rancher nodded, humbled yet grateful. He placed himself quietly among the camp, helping where needed, stoking the fire, distributing water, and offering aid to the warriors with a respectful nod. Every gesture, though small, reinforced his sincerity and built trust with each passing hour. Around the fire, stories began to emerge. The chief spoke of the tribe's history, of battles and survival, of bonds forged by loyalty and courage. The rancher listened intently, absorbing the lessons carried in each tale. He felt a connection forming, fragile yet undeniable, rooted in respect and shared humanity. As the night wore on, he offered practical help, repairing tools, arranging supplies, and assisting with evening rituals. The warriors watched silently, noting the steady hands, the calm presence, and the willingness to work without complaint. In every task, The rancher showed patience, discipline, and humility. The desert night deepened further, stars gleaming brighter as the moon rose high. Shadows danced across tents and faces, highlighting expressions of contemplation, skepticism, and emerging trust. Even the smallest gestures, handing water, tying knots, mending a tool, spoke louder than any declaration of loyalty. Hours passed, yet no rest was demanded. The rancher remained alert, aware that the frontier and the tribe both tested those who sought inclusion. Every sound, from distant rustling to the crackle of the fire, was observed carefully, his senses attuned to potential danger, showing that courage and vigilance were inseparable. By midnight, a quiet understanding had begun to form. The chief nodded again, a subtle acknowledgement of the rancher's place within the camp. Words were no longer needed. The man's presence, actions, and steady demeanor had conveyed what could not be spoken. Trust was emerging, a fragile yet strong thread. The rancher sat back slightly, allowing himself a moment to breathe. The firelight illuminated the chief's face, revealing lines of experience, wisdom, and careful judgment. In that silence, he understood that true honor was earned, never given freely. The night had become a proving ground, and he had survived it with integrity. Dawn approached, painting the sky in soft shades of rose and gold. The desert cooled slightly, and the camp began its morning routine. The rancher moved quietly among the tents, helping where he could, earning small nods and gestures of acknowledgement. The chief watched closely, a silent measure of continued trust. By the first light, the rancher felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced. Though still an outsider by birth, his actions had woven him into the fabric of the camp. Bonds of respect and loyalty had been forged in hours, a silent covenant stronger than any spoken contract. The chief approached him as the camp prepared for the day. "You have honor," he said quietly, without ceremony. "You will not be called stranger again. You walk as brother tonight, if your heart remains true." The rancher bowed deeply, humility and gratitude filling him. He understood then that debts could not always be repaid in gold or silver. Sometimes loyalty, courage, and honesty were worth far more than wealth. The night had transformed him. Not only had he offered aid, but he had become part of something larger, something enduring. As the sun rose fully, casting long shadows across the plains, the rancher looked around at the camp. Fires glimmered, tents swayed in the light wind, and warriors moved with quiet purpose. He felt the unspoken connection, a bond invisible yet unbreakable, linking him to the chief and the tribe. The desert stretched endlessly beyond, untamed and wild, but he no longer felt like an outsider. One night, a simple act of goodwill had turned into trust, respect, and fraternity. The poor rancher had become a brother, not through blood, but through deeds, courage, and the timeless measure of honor. And as the camp settled into rhythm, the chief's eyes met his, a subtle smile acknowledging what had been silently agreed. The rancher, once wandering alone and burdened by his poverty, had discovered belonging, purpose, and the profound truth that some debts are repaid not with wealth but with heart. Around the fire, the chief's voice carried the weight of centuries, recounting tales of honor, tradition, and the responsibilities of leadership. The rancher listened intently, absorbing every word, realizing that courage and loyalty were valued more than gold or possession. The night air carried the scent of sage and smoke. The chief spoke of past conflicts, victories and losses, and the rancher shared his own tales: long days on harsh ranches, nights under the open sky, and lessons learned from the unforgiving desert. Each story was met with nods of understanding, their silence bridging the gaps between cultures and experience. The women, both 29, observed quietly from a short distance. Clara tended the fire, tossing small twigs to keep the flame alive, while Isabel fetched water from a nearby stream. Their eyes reflected curiosity and admiration for the exchange between the rancher and the chief, absorbing lessons about honor, trust, and resilience. By midnight, laughter replaced initial suspicion. The chief's stern gaze softened into a subtle warmth, and the rancher realized that his life, once solitary and wandering, had found a new rhythm. A bond had formed not by blood, but through shared respect and understanding, a quiet pact stronger than any spoken vow. The chief rose and placed a firm hand on the rancher's shoulder. "You are my brother now," he declared, voice carrying authority and approval. The rancher bowed, humbled by the gesture, knowing the title carried weight beyond mere words. Brotherhood in the Apache tradition demanded loyalty, courage, and steadfastness. Clara and Isabel moved closer, the warmth of the fire illuminating their faces. They understood that the bond between the chief and the rancher extended protection to them as well. Their presence was acknowledged silently, a subtle invitation to join this circle of trust and respect, forged in adversity. The rancher felt a profound sense of belonging. No longer an outsider, he shared meals, stories, and tasks with the tribe. He helped repair tools, mend tents, and assist in preparing simple meals. Every small act reinforced the growing trust and cemented his role within this community. By dawn, the desert seemed brighter, as if the sun itself approved of this new alliance. The chief nodded toward the rancher and the women, signaling acceptance and shared purpose. Laughter and conversation began to flow naturally, bonds deepening with each passing hour, each shared moment of labor and life. Through the days that followed, the rancher learned the rhythms of tribal life, hunting, tracking, and gathering, observing rituals and tradition. Clara and Isabel proved invaluable companions, learning quickly and working diligently alongside him. Together, the group formed a cohesive unit, relying on each other for survival and mutual support. The rancher's admiration for the women grew alongside his bond with the chief. Their strength, intelligence, and courage were evident in every action. He noticed subtle glances, shared smiles, and moments of gentle teasing. Respect and affection blossomed naturally, a quiet understanding forming between them amidst the rugged beauty of the desert. One evening, under a sky painted with countless stars, the chief spoke of the importance of loyalty and family. The rancher listened, understanding that family was not always defined by blood. He realized that the women, once strangers, had become companions and allies, bound together by shared experiences and trust. The night deepened, and firelight flickered across faces lined by age, sun, and experience. The 60-year-old chief's eyes gleamed with wisdom as he observed the interactions between the rancher and the women. Respect, admiration, and budding affection created a quiet, unspoken harmony, balancing authority, experience, and newfound connection. The women joined in storytelling, sharing their past hardships and moments of triumph. The rancher listened carefully, offering encouragement and support. His calm presence provided reassurance, and slowly laughter and warmth filled the camp. The desert night, once lonely, now held companionship, understanding, and subtle romance. As weeks passed, the group's cooperation strengthened. The rancher guided the women in riding, tracking, and survival techniques. They responded quickly, their curiosity and determination evident. Each day, mutual respect deepened into admiration, and admiration shifted toward affection. Though never rushed or forced, born naturally of trust and shared challenges. One afternoon, a storm swept across the plains, fierce winds rattling tents and whipping dust into their faces. The rancher, steady and resourceful, helped secure the camp while the chief provided guidance and reassurance. Clara and Isabel worked tirelessly beside him, demonstrating courage, quick thinking, and growing confidence. Their shared experiences and endurance solidified bonds even further. After the storm passed, the night was calm, stars reflected in the quiet desert. Around the fire, the chief smiled, observing the harmony among the group. He spoke of honor, duty, and family, emphasizing that deeds mattered more than wealth or titles. The rancher nodded, understanding that the debt he had repaid extended beyond mere service. It encompassed loyalty, courage, and enduring connection. By the following morning, the rancher fully embraced his role within the tribe. He was no longer a solitary figure wandering the desert. He was a brother, ally, and protector. Clara and Isabel remained at his side, their partnership now marked by trust, camaraderie, and subtle romantic affection. In the heart of the Wild West, the rancher discovered that some depths could not be measured in gold. Courage, respect, and loyalty were the true currency of honor, and through his actions, he had earned more than survival. He had gained a people, a family, and a life of purpose he had never known. The desert stretched endlessly, wild and untamed, yet he no longer felt fear. Together they faced the harsh terrain, storms, and solitude with confidence. Their combined skills, loyalty, and growing affection ensured that they were stronger than any obstacle, and the bonds forged in firelight and hardship would endure. Night after night, the campfire flickered, illuminating faces filled with respect, admiration, and love. The rancher's heart, once weighed with solitude, now held warmth for the chief, the women, and the life he had unexpectedly become part of. The lessons of courage, loyalty, and family would guide him forever. By the end of their first season together, the rancher was accepted fully as brother of the tribe, mentor to the women, and partner in all tasks. Even the smallest gestures, a shared meal, a repaired tool, a gentle word spoke louder than the gold he once carried. He had become part of something enduring, a life woven into the fabric of trust and loyalty. As the desert sun set one final time over the plains, the rancher felt an unshakable bond with his companion. Laughter, respect, and affection filled the air, stronger than fear, isolation, or hardship. That night, he understood that his life had transformed entirely. The poor, wandering man had become a brother, protector, and companion, forever bound by honor, courage, and love.